years old. I was not happy.
Okay.
I protested as much as I could, saying you don't send a kid with somebody, that, even if you're married to him, that you don't really know.
Right.
And because she had custody and that was her son, she made that choice.
Do you remember what time of year that was?
I think it was around the beginning of summer.
Okay. And do you know whether or not, if Sean was aware of the circumstances under which Kathy Cote hired John Jones to work?
Yes,
Okay.
she was.
She was? How do you know that?
Because we told her.
Okay. About the sign and all that?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it was about maybe an hour after we had picked him up and had him working.
All right. Did Sean have, can you tell me about the relationships that Sean had with men?
There were a multiple amount of relationships, and I mean in between, that I can remember, in between 5 and 10. I can't remember them all.
Okay.
The most poignant one that I remember that kind of got to me is she was pregnant by a one-night stand, and I happened to be pregnant, and I had a medical abortion. She was going into the hospital to have an abortion. I was having an abortion, like I say, for medical reasons. I was married. She wasn't. She said, "Oh, we have something else to share," and I just like cringed, and I said, "This is not something that I'm sharing with you. It's two different, entirely different circumstances." So you know.
Let me ask you this. Were you aware of how Joseph was academically and in school?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I know he struggled. I know he struggled because his mom used to get raging mad at him for not getting his work done or not catching the mathematics the way he should, and she would smack him for that. If he didn't get it right, he got punished.
Okay. And about how old was Joe at that time?
In between, well, probably from 3rd grade until 5th or 6th, whenever they moved.
Okay.
And that was kind of an ongoing, if you messed up, you got in trouble.
Okay. Were you aware of Joe's attendance at school?
It was, he went, but it was kind of erratic. He stayed home when the kids were sick and he had help with them. And, you know, if he had a bloody nose or something, then he didn't go. Because of his blood disorder, he had a lot of bloody noses.
Okay. Was there a time when Sean was ill? When Joe was in school?
Yes. Sean got spinal meningitis, I believe, and this was after we had discord in between the two of us, so I wasn't really, she was still living downstairs, but I wasn't like daily visiting with her. But she was flat on her back for a week or so, and the sisters from her church helped her.
Okay. Do you know or have an opinion of whether Joe felt responsible for Sean?
I believe he did.
Okay.
I believe he was kind of like her confidant. You know, if she discussed with him anything that was going on as far as bills or money management, even when he was younger, he kind of heard her out, or was her what do they say, sounding board. You know, when you're a single mom, sometimes you do that with your oldest kid, I guess.
Okay. Did Sean have, well, what was Sean's relationship with money? Was she responsible, irresponsible, or something?
Irresponsible.
And why do you say that?
She was on food stamps, but she did work, and she did try and make ends meet, but it just seemed like there was a lot of challenge for her to meet her ends, and I helped her a few times
Okay.
in coming back and forth.
Was she chronically short of money?
I believe so.
Okay. Now, you have a sister, Trudy, who lives in Oregon,
Yes.
and what is her physical state right now?
She's got lung cancer. She was just diagnosed about a month and a half ago. She has been receiving radiation therapy and chemotherapy. She's a thin person to begin with, and she went down to 100 pounds, and she's pretty tall.
So she's not able to attend court, is that correct?
No, she is not.
All right, thank you. Gosh, I'm sorry, I don't remember if I asked you this or not, but I'm going to ask it again. Was Joe conflict averse?
I'm sorry?
Did he try to avoid conflict, or was he a troublemaker?
Oh, he tried to avoid conflict.
Yeah,
He got smacked more than he ever answered back. He got in trouble if his sister or brother or anybody messed up. It was on him. He caught the consequences of it.
Okay. And the last question I'd like to leave you with is why did you come today?
Because I love my nephew unconditionally, no matter what the circumstances. He's been my Joey ever since he was born, and he'll be so until the day God takes him home.
Thank you. That's all I have. Now, wait a minute.
Okay.
The prosecutor going to ask you some questions.
Cross-examination, Mr. Ripley?
I have no questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for being here. You can step down.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Mr. Rogers, your next witness, sir?
Yeah, I will get.
The defense calls Ian Jones.
Up there. Okay. It's okay. How are you doing?
You could just step up here and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in and get started. Do you swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please listen.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
So, you can please speak into the mic. Would you state your name, please, and spell it for the record?
Ian Jones, IANJONES,
And Mr. Jones, could you give an address, please, where you live?
500 Darnielle Drive, DARNIELLE.
And what city is that in?
Hillsboro, Oregon.
Okay, just get a little bit closer to the mic if you can.
Hillsboro, Oregon.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jones, are you related to Joe McEnroe?
Yes, I'm his younger brother.
And how old are you?
25.
Okay, how much, what is the age difference between you and Joe?
I'm really bad with numbers.
What year were you born?
1989.
Okay, so if he was born in 1978, he's roughly 11 years older than you?
Yes.
Is that fair? You know what Joe has been convicted of doing, right?
Yes.
Killing the Anderson family? Is that correct?
Yes.
You're familiar with generally what happened with there?
Yes, I am.
Have you visited Joe while he's been in jail?
I managed to visit him a few times, yes.
Okay. Before you saw him in jail, when was the last time you had seen him?
I was back in Arizona when I was about 10 years old, maybe.
Okay. What town were you living in Arizona at the time?
Phoenix.
Okay. Was Joe in the same household with you during the first 10 years of your life?
Yes, he was.
And tell me, first of all, who was living in that household during those years?
It was me, my mom, and my sister, Chris as well. We've had a few of my mom's boyfriends come in where we would move in with them, or they come in with us, and we didn't get out there until after I was 10. So for a few years, it was just us as well as some boyfriends of my mom.
Okay. And I should just ask very briefly, in general, what do you do for a living, sir?
I work at Winco.
What is Winco?
It's a grocery store. Produce.
What do you do there?
I'm a produce clerk.
Okay. But the household generally consisted of yourself and Chris. Is that another one of your brothers?
Yes.
And he's where in the line of siblings?
He's the middle. He's younger than Joe, but older than me.
Okay. And your sister Sarah is?
She's the youngest of the family.
Okay, and how much younger than you is she?
She's 1 year and 2 weeks.
Okay. What different states do you remember living in before getting to Arizona, where you last saw
We
Joe?
lived in Washington, California, and it may be in Nevada before that, but the time date was really mixed up for me.
As to when you lived in Nevada, that's a little
Yes.
mixed up? Okay. Where do you first remember living, your earliest memories?
California in a complex.
Okay. Do you remember living in Arizona when you were a very little child?
No, I don't.
Okay. When you lived in California in that complex, talking about like a condominium complex?
It was just a normal complex. I mean, highway, I think. I don't have much memory about that.
Okay, but like apartments or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Did you have any other family members in the vicinity that you saw on any kind of a regular basis? Extended family, maybe?
I remember my aunt Trudy possibly and Regina. I'm not really sure about family members at that time.
Okay. How about Aunt Mary? Did you live near her at any point?
I think so.
And do you remember where that was?
I think that may have been California. I don't remember the complex name.
Okay. How about cousins or anything like that?
I remember living near a cousin Dusty.
Cousin Dusty?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
One aunt, but I don't remember her name.
An aunt, did you say?
It might have been an aunt or it might have been family friend, but
Okay.
I don't remember.
Let me ask you this. Who is your dad? Have you met your dad?
I'm not really sure about that.
Okay, well, have you met
I've never
anybody
met him, no.
Okay. Have you had any male father figures in your life?
The longest person who's been there as my mom's chosen would have been my Alan, but the people who I majorly was raised by was Joe and Chris, and they were there for most of the time.
Okay. When you say the people I was originally raised by, was your mother participating in the raising as well?
Yes, but father figure-wise or male models.
Okay. Between Joe and Chris, who kind of was in that role? Was one of them more in that role than the other? Or was it about equal, or how was it?
Most of the time it was Joe because Chris often went to school and Joe was home more often to help raise the kids when my mom was at work.
Okay. And what was life like, and what do you remember, those early memories from your first 10 years? What do you remember life being like in that household?
It was a good life. I mean, I didn't notice much that was going on around. Joe, Chris, they tried to keep me from seeing the things that happened that might have bothered me. He took me to go places when I wanted to. He tried to include me in those social events whenever he went to his friend. He tried to give me a good life.
And you're talking about
Joe.
Joe. When you say he included me in social events, what kind of things are you talking about?
Like I remember one time he went to take me out on the 4th of July with some of his friends, and we were on a hilltop having some pizza while we watched the fireworks from the hill. And he'd take me to arcades sometimes, and took me to arcades.
Where were you? What state were you in, if you remember, when that arcade?
This, I believe, was in Washington.
Okay. Do you remember living in Washington State?
Yeah, we lived in a house in Burien, I believe it was.
Okay. About what ages were you when you lived in that house?
I think about 8 years old, maybe a little older.
Okay. Do you remember Joe having friends in and out of the house?
A few friends. I don't know if that was in Washington. I know about one friend he had, girlfriend Shoshana, but that I don't remember much of his other friends.
Shoshana?
Yes.
Tell us about Shoshana. Was that in Washington?
Yes, that was in Washington. I don't remember much about her. I mean, she'd be over, hang out with Joe, and then they didn't really. She didn't talk much to me as far as I remember, but she seemed really nice.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Was that a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Okay, that was your impression?
Yeah.
Okay. How about Chris? Did he have friends or girlfriends in and out of the house?
I think he may have. I don't remember too much of his friends either, besides one friend he had named Pinky, which that is the only one coming to mind.
Okay. Let me ask you about what was there? Do you know whether Joe ever got into any fights? Did you ever see him involved in any fights?
I've never seen him get in any fights. The only fights I can remember is when I was coming home today. I was being walked home. I don't remember.
Hold on.
Sorry.
When you were coming home, what?
I was coming home from school, and I don't remember clearly if it was Joe or Chris walking me home, but a few people showed up they were kids who often picked on me, and I was told to go down to the apartment where we were living and get Chris or Joe, depending which one, and he rushed up to help, and I don't remember what happened to that because I was told to stay at the building.
Okay, so but basically your brothers.
Yeah, I was being walked home by one of them, and then the other one to help.
It sounds like they came together and dealt with whatever the situation
Yeah.
was. Okay, and you were that was in Washington State, did you say?
Yes, I think it was in Washington.
Okay, so maybe you were 8 years old, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay. Who took care of things around the house as far as housework and cooking and cleaning and things like that?
Most of the time that was Joe.
Chris participated all?
He helped too, but he wasn't there as often, and when he was home he did help, but most of the time it was Joe helping out.
Where was your mom for this? Was she helping out too?
She helped when she could, but she worked 2 jobs a lot of the times, and she was just too tired when she got home to do a lot of work because she'd be in her home real late at night.
As far as you mentioned that your mom had some boyfriends in and out of the house, was there ever any problems between those boyfriends and the kids?
Not too many problems. There was a couple incidents where one, Michael, he was abusive.
Michael, and what state were you in?
Washington.
Okay, tell us about that, please.
He yelled at us sometimes. One time me and my sister were fighting, and he locked our ankles together with a chain. My mom was furious at that, and she talked him out of that before he left on too long. Another time I was crushing some bugs, and he hit me with a basketball that I was using to crush the bugs with. I don't remember much more than that. There was Don, who he wasn't really abusive. He was just strict about things, and didn't really like having the children in his house, so that didn't last too long either.
Who was Dawn? Where was that?
That was in Phoenix, Arizona.
Do you know what circumstances, why you guys moved down to Phoenix?
I don't really know why we moved down, how we knew that was Palmdale, but I knew that Michael, after she broke up with him, she wanted to get us away from that area as soon as possible, so she went down to meet Don.
Would Joe's, so you talked about these boyfriends coming through. It sounds like some of them lived with you guys, is that right?
Yes, and we lived with a few as well.
Would Joe's role in the household change at all as these people came in, these men came in and out?
I know he was used to raising us, so sometimes when the boyfriend would move in or we move with them, he wouldn't like how he treated us or how they treated us or what we will expect to do with some of the rules, and they'd butt heads, but most of the time it didn't arrive to too many conflicts that I saw.
When you would say they would butt heads, what did you observe, or what do you remember?
I'd observe some yelling sometimes, but most of the time he tried not to let us see too much of that.
Joe would try.
Joe would try not to let us see too much of that.
Did he ever intervene at all if there was some conflict with the boyfriends?
The boyfriends never really were too cruel to us when he was around, so he didn't.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Did you say cool or cruel?
Cruel, sorry.
It's okay.
They never really were too yelling at us, or they wouldn't get too cruel when they were around. It was mainly when they weren't around that Michael did that stuff, but the other ones, they never really got out of hand yelling at me or my sister.
They never got out of hand yelling at you and your sister?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So this Michael, would he treat the kids differently when Joe was there versus when Joe was not there?
Yeah, sometimes he'd yell a lot louder, or he'd get more in our face about things and try and be more intimidating.
Okay. Tell us about, if you remember, what were the circumstances when Joe left the house for good, when he moved away?
Chris was there for a little while, and things got a bit more strained. There was more yelling sometimes. After Chris left, it was just me, Alan, Sarah, and my mom, and he became more verbally abusive towards us, more controlling. Things got more strenuous. He began to be more insulting about things, calling my sister and me names, and it just became harder after that.
Did your mom intervene at all to stop that?
She tried to, but most of the time it would just get things more wound up, and most of the time it would just be easier for us all to just not try to argue with it and just do what he wanted us to do.
There's been some testimony about the improper relationship between Al and your sister. When and how did you become aware of that?
I became aware of that after one day we were sitting at home, and he was arguing with my sister. I don't remember the context of the argument, but she said something, and he threw a remote at her and hit her in the head with a remote while she was holding Rose. I grabbed him and pulled him out of the house and pushed him out, was holding the door closed. The cops came and arrested him. He was back the next day and asking for a charger, and that's when I found out, because I gave him the charger, and he says, by the way, the rumors about me and my sister were true. I've been with her for 5 years, and Rose is mine.
Rose is your sister's daughter?
Yes.
Did you have any inkling that was going on before?
I heard rumors about it, but it was from his nephew or from his grandson, who he was somebody who would say things just trying to get a rise out of people, so I never believed him.
But it turns out there was some
Yeah.
truth to them. What I was asking you before about when Joe left the house, do you know why Joe left the house for good?
I didn't know. I was told that he just wanted to get out on his own, and he just wanted to start his own life.
Okay. Did you have any contact with Joe after he moved out of your mom's house and before you heard about the incident that we all hear about today?
The only contact I remember was one day when he called and he asked how I was. We had a conversation a little bit. He was upset about a few things, but it's been a while and I don't really remember much of the conversation.
Do you remember where he was or what period of time this was?
I don't remember where he said he was, and I think I might have been about between 15 and 18, if I remember
You were
right.
between 15 and 18?
If I remember right.
Do you remember what he was upset about?
I think it might have been an issue about how Al was and how he treated things. I think he might have been calling to apologize for having to leave like he did. I don't remember much of it.
Not really sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was before he was in jail?
Yes.
Okay. And did Joe ever participate in disciplining you and Sarah when you were young kids?
He never really spanked us or anything like that. He didn't like doing that thing. What he'd do, if we did something wrong, he'd take something away of ours and then put in a place where we can get it. Then if we did something on the back, like we would clean our rooms or something, he would tone it. But he never used physical discipline on us that I can remember.
Okay. And I apologize if I asked this before. Other than the incident where both of your brothers got involved when there were some kids who were bothering you at school, any other times you remember Joe being in fights with anyone or having trouble with the law?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. Ian, why do you want to testify here today?
Because he's been there for me when I was a kid, when my mom couldn't because she was working, or when my brother was at school, and I wasn't the best kid. I made things hard on him and made it difficult for him to have his own life, and I want to be there for him the way he did it was there for me.
Even though you know that he killed 6 innocent people,
Yes.
you're still going to be here for him.
Yes, and I'm not saying it's right. I need to be there for my brother.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Cross-examination, Mr. Oakham? Thank you for coming, no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Presti, do you have another witness available?
Yes, 1 moment, please.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your patience. The defense calls Chris McEnroe.
Good afternoon, sir. You can just step up here and raise your right hand. I'll swear you will get started, okay? You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I said it.
Please have a seat, sir.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
You're going to have to answer out loud.
Hi.
I'm just going to point the microphone a little closer to you here. Could you state your name, please, and spell it for the record?
Hi. Christopher Patrick McEnroe. CHRISTOPHEL PATRICK MC capital ENROE.
And could you give an address where you reside, please?
I'm trying to remember it. 190. Is it North Street? South Street?
What was it?
North Street, San Jose. North 13th Street, San Jose. California 95050.
Okay. And how long have you lived in San Jose?
Probably about a year now.
Okay. Have you lived in that area, the San Jose, Santa Clara area, for a lot of your life?
For a good portion of it, yeah.
Okay. How old are you, Mr. McEnroe?
33? 34? 34.
Okay.
Just had birthday.
How are you related to Joe McEnroe?
I'm his brother.
Okay, and the age difference between you two?
Is probably about 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
What time of year?
Sitting here today, when was the last time you saw your brother in person?
I was 18, I
Okay.
think. 18 or 17.
Okay.
17, 18.
So it's been, what, more than 15 years? Is that
Yeah.
fair to say? Where was the last place you saw him?
Phoenix.
Okay. Did you just get into town last night?
Yeah.
Did you visit your brother in the jail or anything before this?
No.
Okay. So tell us, please, if you would, we want to know a little bit about what your household was like growing up. Okay? So is your mom Sean?
Yes.
Okay. What are your earliest memories? Where were you living and who was around?
The earliest memories I have was when we lived in Colorado. I don't remember quite a whole lot of it that transpired there. I do remember a few things. Mom had a boyfriend that I didn't want to wash my hair, so he held my head underwater. And
Did you just hear about that, or is that a memory you have?
no, that's a memory I have. I still have problems being like held on my own, restricted underwater or playing around with friends or jogging.
Okay.
Remember snow. It was kind of like a ranch, I think, we lived on.
Is this in Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a horse. I remember we couldn't ride it because it had a bad back.
I'm sorry, you what?
There was a horse,
Okay.
pony.
But you couldn't ride it?
Yeah, it had a bad back.
Okay. Do you know how long you lived in Colorado?
Lived there for probably about, I'd have to say a few months, it seems.
Okay.
Because I remember snow, and I've been told that I fell asleep in the snow, but
You don't remember that?
no, must have been sleeping.
Tell us what your memories are from childhood. Everybody's got a different definition of normal, but do you think you had a normal childhood?
Pretty kind of much. Not as good as some, but better than most.
Okay, why don't you tell us what details are behind that opinion?
My mom worked 2 jobs, single parent. Me and my old brother Joe would go and be raising the kids while she's off at work, play video games. Joe's best friend at the time was my cousin.
And
from
who's that?
My dad's side, David Cote.
And who's your dad?
John Dutra. Dutra?
Okay. Did you ever meet Mr. Dutra?
No.
Okay.
That's what I've been told, is that he's my cousin from,
Did David your cousin?
yeah,
I see.
David and Megan.
Okay. So, and you remember playing with them growing up?
Yeah.
Playing with David, anyway.
Yeah.
Did you play with Megan, too?
Well, she was more like, the little kid that's tagging along the group.
Sure.
I was like, go away, shoo.
Okay. Let me ask you about some memories that you may have from before your younger brother and sister came along. What was your life like? There's been some testimony that your mom had a a lot of boyfriends in and out? Is that what you remember or not?
I don't really remember a lot of boyfriends. I remember there was probably the guy from Colorado, Norman, I think was his name. I'm not 100%.
The Colorado guy was Norman?
No. Norman was the bus driver.
Okay.
Kind of like heavy Filipino dude. It was around Christmas time. He got me, and I think it was like a shelled present, Ghostbusters.
A shared present?
Yeah, for me and Joe. It was a Ghostbusters board game.
Okay. So was he a decent guy?
He seemed pretty cool. We
Okay.
had, I think that's around the time we had a cockatiel.
You had a cockatiel?
Yeah,
Bird?
yeah, pretty cool.
Well, who else? Do you remember any other boyfriends and what their relationship was like with the family, with the kids?
There was a boyfriend after that. I put shaving cream in my mouth because I cussed at him or something or another.
Do you remember that guy's name?
Not off the top of my head. I kind of remember what he looks like. Tall, skinny, scruffy.
Okay. Let me ask you, do you now as an adult have an opinion of sort of whether the guys that were coming into the house were good for the household, or was your mom exercising good judgment or not good judgment? What do you think?
My mom was kind of looking for somebody to be a role model or a father figure to kids that might not have been. She didn't use really that good of judgment in how good the person was. Just, this guy, he likes me, he should be good for the kids.
Did it turn out to be like that?
90% no.
90% no. Did your role or Joe's role in the household change at all as these guys came in and out?
Joe's role pretty much did, and mine, no, not much.
Tell me how Joe's role changed as these guys came in and out.
When Mom didn't have a boyfriend, Joe was pretty much whole support, like how, you know, like, how would I phrase it? Like mental support.
Okay. She would talk to him and things?
Should talk to him like, okay, well, we got to get this bill paid, and we have to do this and that, and like, should we do this one, pay this bill instead of that bill, and kind of stuff like that. And
were you, did you ever feel threatened by any of these guys?
couple of them, yeah. So, my little sister was dad, John.
Is that John Jones?
John Jones. Would use a weightlifting belt on us to spank us. And had one stepdad, or mom's boyfriend, whatever,
And who's that?
that put the shaving cream in my mouth. Couple other ones that weren't exactly good guys.
Any details or names of those guys?
Michael Bates.
Where was that?
I was in Seattle, Washington.
Okay. What was he
And
like?
He was kind of disturbed individual.
What was disturbed about him?
He wanted to go and pick up a prostitute and kill, and Joe was like, no, that's not right. And he would try to persuade me and Joe to go with him to do it, and we were like, no.
Did this happen
That's-
once or more than once, did he say this?
He asked us a couple times, and Joe was like, "No,
Okay, so
that's
did
not good.
either of you ever go along with any of that stuff?
No."
Did he ever do it, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, no, not
Okay.
that I know of.
About how old were you when you were living in Washington State?
When I was from 14 to 17 and a half.
Okay, so you were born in 1982, is that right?
Yes.
So roughly from 1996, is that right?
Yeah.
Until 1999, more or less?
Yeah.
Okay.
From 99.
Was Joe involved in disciplining the children at all?
Joe really didn't discipline Ian and Sarah. That was pretty much my job. When they did something wrong, I would discipline them, and when I did something wrong, Joe would discipline me.
What would Joe do for discipline for you?
We had, like, not really boxing matches, but,
You and Joe had boxing matches?
Yeah.
Tell us
We-
about those.
well, one time we were at the swimming pool, swimming, and he ended up doing something, and he pissed me off, and I hit him once in the chest, and I dropped, he fell down because he couldn't catch his breath. And after that point, I could never bring myself to hit him hard again.
Why not?
Because it's my brother. I love him.
Well, but where's the boxing here? I'm hearing about one punch. Was there more than one?
We'd have, like, wrestling matches
Okay.
when my mom's at work. Me, Joe, my friend Patrick Gilbert, Beto Murillo, and David Cote.
After Patrick Gilbert.
Beto Murillo, and David Cote. We would have wrestling matches and, like, teenage kids.
Was everybody participating in those equally?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, did Joe tend to get into fights with other kids at school or anything like that?
No, Joe pretty much only had, well, my cousin and one friend from school that I met, and pretty much my friends.
Your friends?
Yeah.
Did Joe have a lot of friends other than those people in and out of the house?
No.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you tend to have more friends than Joe?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Joe's more book smart,
Book smart?
and I'm more, like, street smart,
Street smart?
more sociable. Joe is extremely intelligent. I mean, he writes great stories, amazing artwork. Joe, with me growing up, Joe was always, like, studying animal skeletons, muscle structures. He had probably a dozen and a half books about him, about that. So he can draw the way an animal would actually run and how it would move and how the muscles would move. And I actually think I still have some of his art, not much.
Let me ask you, there was some testimony about an incident where I think Joe picked you up and dropped you on your head. Is that what happened?
Yes.
You called the cops?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was probably about 6, 7.
6 or 7?
Yeah.
And so Joe would have been, what, 9 or 10?
Yeah.
What happened, please?
We were wrestling, and he jumped me on, picked me up. I think we jumped off the couch and kind of like tombstones or something like that.
And you what?
Kind of like Undertaker's tombstone.
I don't know what that is.
You pick him up, turn him upside down, and boom,
Is that like-
on the floor.
Is that like a wrestling move from
Yeah.
the World Wrestling Federation?
Yeah.
I see.
And my neck hurt. I thought it was broken. You know, little kids, extreme.
Your neck hurt
And-
and you thought it was broken?
Yeah. So, called the cops, and, like, I don't remember too much after that.
Where was your mom for all this?
Walking.
Was there any other adult you could go to? I mean, call the cops.
There was my Aunt Mary upstairs, Kathy, the apartment manager, and pretty much, well, and my cousin Regina and Mary Pat, but I don't know if Mary Pat had her own place at that time.
Let me ask you, you were saying that these people were upstairs. You've talked about living in Washington State and California. Where else do you remember living as you grew up?
We lived in Tucson, Phoenix.
You mentioned Colorado.
Colorado. Pretty much that's it.
In California, did you live at Homestead Garden Apartments?
For about 75%, we lived at with my grandpa for 4 years of my life, and then we moved to apartments down the street, which I remember barely, like maybe a few things here and there.
Right.
And then we moved to Homestead Gardens and lived there kind of in between moving to Tucson and then moving back to California and then moving up to Washington, and then from Washington we moved down to Phoenix. But we moved to Colorado and then back to Homestead Gardens.
Let me ask you about Homestead Garden. Did you just live in one apartment there the
No.
whole time? How many did you live in?
See, there was 27, 18.
Are you counting apartment numbers that you
Yeah,
lived in?
I'm counting apartment number, sorry. Apartment 13, about 5, maybe 6.
Over the course of how many years?
Probably about 7 or 8.
Well, why were you living in different apartments in the same complex?
We ended up moving out, and then only one time we actually moved from one apartment to another apartment. But we then moved to out to Colorado, Tucson, and then we came back and then we moved into a different apartment.
Okay. Let me ask you for the duties and obligations around the house. Was that how were those shared out?
Pretty much, I did cooking and cleaning, and Joe do some cooking, cleaning basically when I didn't cook.
Because what?
Joe would do some cooking when I didn't want to cook. So every Christmas, it was whoever cooked Christmas, Thanksgiving dinner. Like if Joe cooked Thanksgiving, then I would cook Christmas.
So you guys were both pitching in on that?
Yeah,
Did your mom pitch in on that too?
yeah, because Mom felt that if a man knew how to cook, he wouldn't be dependent upon a woman in order to go and
Good thinking.
take care of himself.
Right. Okay. Do you feel like it was an equal share of responsibilities around the house, or was there more on either you or Joe?
It was probably more on Joe,
Why is that?
because from like 16 he was working, 16, 17 he was working at Safeway, and then he really didn't have money for himself because Mom needed it for rent.
Mom needed it for what?
Rent
rent.
and pay bills.
How about before he was working, when you guys were younger, when he was, let's say, 12 years old and he hadn't got a job outside the house yet? Responsibilities roughly equally shared, or more on one or more on the other?
Probably more on him, that he had to make sure everything was going good. And Mom had him drop out of high school.
Your mom had him drop out of high school?
Yeah.
What do you know about that?
Had him drop out so that she could have a babysitter for Ian and Sarah. So they started going to school.
So is that something you heard, or how do you know? What do you remember specifically about that incident?
That's what I was told several times by multiple different people.
When? Recently, or?
Years ago. And
Go ahead, sorry.
so that... Oh, sorry. Lost it. In a thought.
There was some testimony that sometimes your mom would call you guys names. Do you have any recollection of that?
Yes.
What do you remember?
She'd get upset because the house wasn't clean, or me and Joe were fighting about some stupid thing. Probably I took apart his Nintendo or Sega and trying to put it back together and broke it. And we were fighting about that, and she'd go, "You little maggots," or "fuckos," or something along those lines.
Was this one time or more than one time?
Quite a few times throughout the years.
Did she have a tendency to get very angry?
Yes.
Now, do you remember at one point, did your mom have cancer at one point?
Yeah, she had ovarian cancer.
Ovarian cancer?
Yes.
And what state or what town were you living in?
We were living in Seattle, Washington,
Okay.
and she had her ovaries removed, and then about 3, maybe 6 months later, she had to have a full hysterectomy because they didn't get it all.
Okay.
So she ended up with uterine cancer, so she had to have it all taken out.
And do you remember, did that affect her personality at all?
It pretty much kind of mellowed her out a lot.
Did it change the yelling or anything like that?
Yeah. She didn't really yell much after that.
Okay. How would Sean get you guys to do the things that she wanted you to do?
She would ask us, and then she would try to bribe us, and then she'd get angry.
Try to bribe you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then she'd get angry, and then she'd get apologetic. Like, "I'm sorry, could you please do this for me?"
I mean, was that a pattern? Was that something
Yeah.
you noticed multiple times?
Yeah. That was pretty much how she go. Like, one of those ways would be to get you to do what she wanted.
Did she do that to all of you equally, or one of you more than another, or what?
Pretty much just me and Joe. She would do that too.
When she
And-
did this stuff to you guys, would you talk back? Would you be like, "Hey, Ma, I don't want to do that"? I mean, how was it?
I would, Joe wouldn't. Joe would pretty much do what Mom said when she said. Me, I would go, "No, I don't want to do that." Or I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, I'm going to go off. Bye-bye now."
So what would Joe do when he was upset? Did he have temper tantrums? What did he do?
He didn't really have temper tantrums. Not much, maybe once or twice. He's actually ever been aggressive.
What do you remember about that?
Trying to remember. One time, when we first moved to Seattle, I forget the place we lived. It was in an apartment. The door was locked. He had his hands full. He was kicking out the door.
Joe was?
Yeah.
What was he had his
And,
hands full of?
Groceries.
Okay.
And because as he was kicking out the door, I opened it. I got kicked.
And you got kicked by it.
Yeah. And then he
And then
was.
what happened next?
Then he was really apologetic
Okay.
for it,
Well, was he trying to kick you or trying to kick the door?
trying to kick the door.
Do you remember him being aggressive at all with other people?
No.
Or getting aggressive with your mom when she was trying to tell him what to do?
Joe, no. He's pacifist.
Okay.
He didn't really fight.
He what?
Joe didn't really fight. We had, when we lived in those apartments, we had a problem with one of our neighbors. The kids that were going to school with my little brother and sister ended up going, and one of their little cousins that went to school with them was picking on Ian. And me and Joe, I went to walk the kid to school, and I told the kid, look, leave him alone or I'm going to beat up on you, see how you like it. And that started a big problem with me and them. And Joe's like, look, just leave him alone, don't deal with him. Won't be nothing.
And so what happened?
I ended up getting into like several fights, dealing with them, and Joe pretty much just kind of stayed back because Joe don't fight.
What circumstances do you remember? What were the circumstances where Joe left the house for good?
Pretty much what happened was Joe and Al Johnson got into a fight, and Al was like, look, you're no longer head of the house, I am, and you're not needed. You need to go out and live your life and do whatever.
So how did Joe take
And
that?
Joe was pretty much a little hesitant on leaving, but he left and moved to cross country with a chick that he met over the internet.
A woman that he met over the internet?
Yeah.
Was she in Arizona?
No, she was in North Carolina.
Okay. Well, how was Joe with women? Did he have girlfriends in and out?
No. I tried to go and hook Joe up with a girl, two different girls, not the same girl a couple times, but a couple times with different girls. And the one girl I tried to hook him up with, she kind of ended up developing feelings for me, and I was like, no, you're supposed to be with him. And that didn't turn out, and one chick, I tried to go.
A woman?
Yeah, different woman. Tried to go and get him hooked up with, like Tom, telling her, he's really cute, he's extremely smart. When he laughs like Woody Woodpecker. He goes, ha 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 ha.
And that did not recommend him to her, did it?
He thought I was kind of being mean, but I was trying to talk him up. Like, that was a cute laugh.
Okay, so what happened?
Joe ended up getting pissed and taking off, and I was like, dude, where are you going? She's off.
Okay, so did you observe Joe interacting with any women of his age or young women of his age?
No. Joe was pretty much, he'd be in his room playing on chat lines and stuff like that.
On what?
On Yahoo chat, not Yahoo, this is before Yahoo.
AOL?
AOL chat. And he'd be writing stories and talking to like 3 or 4 people in a group or whatever. And he'd type with like one hand so quick that I'm like, what are you typing? There's no words even popping up. He goes, oh, watch. And all of a sudden, like, paragraphs would start popping up and popping up and popping up. I'm like, damn.
Chris, there was some testimony about a woman named Shoshana.
Yes,
Who was she?
there was one girl, I don't know if you would call her that. Mom tried to fix him up with her, and she basically moved into his room, kind of more or less kicked him out of his room, then she would go and get changed or whatever, and have him sit by the bathroom door as she's taking a bath and talk to her as she gets ready to go out to like a party, club, or whatever she was gonna go and do. And she had him go and take probably about 9, 10, or 8, somewhere around there. Well, it was a film in the backyard up in Seattle.
Of her?
Yeah.
And
Because she wanted to be a model.
she wanted to be a model?
Yeah.
Was it this like a girlfriend, or what was your perception?
He wanted her to be, but she was more interested in other stuff or other people.
Okay.
She had her one female friend move in too. Probably towards the end of her being there, and she had a boyfriend.
Okay. So did those guys eventually move out?
Once we moved out, she ended up moving out, and when she moved her other friend in, Joe went and lived. Well, he would sleep upstairs in the living room because the house was like upside down. It was on a hill.
Bedrooms were in the basement.
Yeah.
What were the circumstances that? Well, actually, it's 10 of 3. Perhaps we should take the afternoon break, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please leave your notepads and pens for the chair. We want to discuss the case amongst yourselves during the break, and we'll see you back here in about 15 minutes. Thank you. And you can step down, sir. Thank you. We'll need you back. Okay. We'll see you in 15 minutes, folks. Thank you.